Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now, you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back again, everyone, to another edition of All Things Financial. The last couple weeks we've been talking about policy comparisons, how to compare. And if you missed the first two parts, you'll want to check those out because I went through some general concepts that are little known and widely misunderstood on how people compare insurance policies when they're shopping. But to continue this, we were ending up last week with some differences and nuances with, as opposed to car insurance coverage, what recreational vehicle policies might provide, or boat policies, or classic car policies. So for those of you who have motorcycle insurance or any of these ancillary type vehicles, I wanted to point out some of the different coverages, which we started on last week, and I want to pick up this week where I left off. And I'll also discuss some other areas in insurance issues and maybe exposures that you don't even know you have as we get through this show today, and maybe help you identify some areas you'll want to hurry and call your agent about and ask, am I covered? So back to the recreational vehicles, I wanted to share with you a couple other areas, especially with boats and, like I say, the motorhomes and mobile homes. But a lot of times when you're going on a trip, especially when you have a motorhome, you will take a pet. And I bet most of you don't have your pet insured. Never even thought of it. So yes, you could buy pet insurance, but secondly, in a motorhome, you can actually add pet coverage while you're transporting a pet in some policies, in some cases, with some companies. So whether or not you have pet insurance, so to speak, which normally provides for medical care for the pet, this type of insurance is if they get injured in an accident or something happens to them in an accident, let's say. So your motorhome policy might be able to endorse pets on, and I'll bet you never knew that. When we look at some of the boat coverage, if you're sailing in international waters, do you think you might need some special coverage? It seems like common sense. Most of you would know that, but I bring it up anyway because it is something you want to ask. If you go into international waters, well, be careful, because is Mexico international waters? Or when you go off the coast of Florida, so be a little bit careful there. We're talking about some coverages that we didn't have to concern ourselves, or at least we didn't know to, like piracy and terrorism. So even on domestic waters, we now have coverages that you may need to contact your agent and find out, am I covered for piracy and am I covered for terrorism? Some of these things. Now for you fishermen with the bass boats, and I know there are probably a lot of you listening, some of you might be fishing tournaments for money, and you might miss out on a tournament that you've invested money for, that your boat didn't make it. It broke. Or you had a boating accident. What I want you to do is know that you can talk to your insurance carriers about, I fish for tournaments, and can I have coverage for loss of income or revenues or expenses as a result of the boat failing or me being in an accident? So I'm sure a lot of you didn't know you could even buy that coverage, but you can in many cases. Now, again, remember there are a lot of discounts available that are not available in regular car insurance for boat policies. And that's, again, boater safety training. And you also have to know you might have to pay additional premiums. If you're taking passengers, you might have to pay additional premiums to cover those passengers if they're hurt, and especially uninsured boaters' liability and all those type of things. And you might have to cover equipment, especially. It might not come with a regular boat policy. So know that. Fishing equipment, life preservers, things like that might qualify you for discounts, but might also need covered. So you have to know all those things. When you go into a boater safety course, you might have a boater certification. Every 2 years or 3 years, you might have to update that to keep the discounts, but it's good to have that. And you might also get a discount for having ship-to-shore radio on there because it's a safety feature you might not think of, but it might be a safety feature that'll give you some discounts. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
If you're a business owner or an independent contractor, you know the cost of doing business. You have your equipment, your personnel, advertising costs, and doing everything you can to outdo the competition. But do you run your business, or does your business run you? Your business is truly an investment. Is that investment insured? Jack Driscoll is here to help. At Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services, he provides complete business planning services ranging from property insurance programs to disability, life, hospitalization, and long-term care programs. He not only designs insurance protection plans tailored for your business and protects what is already built, but strives to strengthen your business through providing employee benefit and group programs. It's through this unique combination of skills that Jack has become a valuable resource for business owners and managers. Educate yourself first by going to DriscollFinancial.com and clicking on Business Insurance, or give Jack a call at 412-833-1500. Your business and your employees need you to be prepared, and you need to be protected. Log on to DriscollFinancial.com or call 412-833-1500. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Insure for today. Invest for tomorrow.
Welcome back again, everyone. Now we're going to get into some areas that I'll bet you never even think of, but I'm here to help you. One of them is texting while driving. There are issues with texting while driving, and we're a little bit concerned as insurance agents over, will policies begin putting provisions for if you're texting while driving, maybe coverages will be limited or something like that. So be aware of this, because we already know the police can check your phones and see that there was texting and things like that. It's very, very dangerous. Remember, when you're driving a vehicle, you're really driving a loaded weapon. So be very, very careful out there. But an area I wanted to point out was an article I ran across, and I'll cite the study, but you know what it pertains to? Football games. And I don't mean participating in football games. I mean fans of football games and fatalities in car accidents after their team wins. So here goes. There was an article, it's an old article, but I wanted to resurrect it for those of you now that it's football season. And here's what it is, and it dates back to 2011. It was in the Insurance Journal in the National Region, April 4th of 2011. And what it did was it cited a study, which I'll tell you about in a minute, who did this, but here's what it is. The description says, closely contested major sporting events are followed by a significant increase in traffic fatalities for the fans of the winning team. Who ever heard of this? So what seems to be happening is research from the North Carolina State University came up with this report that when your team wins, there is sometimes an increase in traffic fatalities because the teams are winning. And I guess it gets everybody all hyped up. It said a previous study showed that traffic fatalities increased in the hours following the Super Bowl. Dr. Stacy Wood, Langdon, Langdon, distinguished professor of marketing at North Carolina State and a lead author of a paper describing the research, went into a question saying, are close games or highly contested games, are the fans at more risk after the game? That basically they're all ramped up. Now, we don't know whether it's because of drinking or whether it's because of testosterone, as it goes on to say in the article, that hypes people up, makes people more aggressive. But here's part of their conclusion. And the reason I'm sharing it with you on the show is because, yes, it pertains to insurance, but it also pertains to your safety. Remember, this show's all things financial, so I'm trying to keep you safe, folks. Games rated as nail-biters are far more likely to result in traffic fatalities, this study goes on to conclude, but only for fans of the winning team. So, I don't know, maybe it doesn't pay to win, but be careful when you're at these football games. Wood and researchers, it goes on to say, from the University of South Carolina, USC, evaluated traffic fatalities after 271 games played between 2001 and 2008, including championship games. And it just goes on to say that they found the traffic fatalities increased significantly after close games and games that were like nail-biters. So the paper, it's called, if you want to look it up, The Bad Thing About Good Games, the relationship between close sporting events and game day automobile fatalities. And the reason I bring it up on the show is forewarned is forearmed. So it's from the Journal of Consumer Research. It was co-authored by Dr. Melaine Morgan McGinnis, a professor of economics at USC, and David Norton, PhD, student at USC. Also, the North Carolina State's Department of Business Management is part of the university's Poole College of Management, had a part in this study. So I bring it up for one main reason. It's football season. Be careful. As I say, forewarned is forearmed. So be careful out there. Now, another thing I wanted to point out, totally different area. For those of you who are involved in so many different sporting events or any community events, I know most of you don't even think about insurance. But my question, as a financial planner, not just an insurance agent, is, are you covered? So if I had 100 of you listening, tell me everything that you do on your off time, I'd be asking, asking you to ask me the question, am I covered? Am I covered? Am I covered? Am I covered for all these different things? It might be scuba diving and, bungee jumping. It might be Little League Baseball. It might be coaching Little League Baseball. So all of these bring up activities, and it might be being on a community board or a community association. It could be holding picnics. It could be holding trade shows. Could be doing all these things, holding fairs, farmers markets. All of these different ancillary activities raise the question to a seasoned and skilled financial professional, am I covered? So, I want to get into one area, which is for those of you who are on boards or leadership position because you're volunteering, and I know a lot of you probably are. I will start this discussion by saying many of you, maybe most of you, are not covered. So you're volunteering for organizations, you're taking on responsibilities for those organizations, you're making decisions on behalf of those organizations, and may be personally liable for those decisions made, having no protection through the organization. So we're going to take a quick break again, come right back. I'll explain what I mean, and what you need to make sure you're covered when you're volunteering out of the goodness of your heart to these organizations, to make sure that you're also protecting yourself and the other members on the board and the other members of the association properly. Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Most would agree that no one could put a monetary price tag on our lives. You and I are truly priceless. However, the cost to our loved ones could be dramatic if we don't prepare for the challenges they may face should we pass away. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services has a great tool on their website, driscollfinancial.com. When you click on the link for a free life insurance quote, you can see the different opportunities available for term life insurance from several providers, including some well-known companies. All you do is answer a few questions about yourself. It literally takes seconds, and you may be surprised to see how affordable term life insurance can be. Experts recommend that you carry life insurance equal equal to 8 to 10 times your annual salary. So what are you waiting for? Go to DriscollFinancial.com and get a free quote. And while you're there, check out the vast array of services that Jack Driscoll has to offer. Or call his office in Bethel Park at 412-833-1500. That's 412-833-1500. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Insure for today. Invest for tomorrow.
Okay, let's get right into this issue. You're volunteering for organizations. They have no money sometimes. So you're doing volunteer work, you're coaching, whatever it is, for no money. You're putting yourself and your family and maybe even your business at risk. For what? To do good work. But be careful here, folks, because if you're not covered, it backfires. If you wish you never had done it, then you need to know in advance, could coverage have been available? And then could the organization have afforded the coverage? Many people are not volunteering because of the risks. But there's a policy that can help mitigate some of the risk, and it's called a directors and officers liability policy. Now, for those of you listening, you first need on your own your automobile insurance, your home insurance, your miscellaneous insurance, like I've talked about, recreational vehicles, motorcycles, boats, whatever, and umbrella liability insurance. I've not talked about that on recent shows, so write that one down. I won't go into it in detail today. It will not typically provide coverage, though, for directors and officers liability. So you still need, if you're volunteering or on a paid board, you need to make sure that directors and officers liability is first purchased from a reputable company, and many organizations don't have the money to be able to afford the coverage. And secondly, I'm going to help you see and write down what you need to be looking for starters out of a directors and officers liability policy. So the very first thing that I want you to do is look and see, when you join a community association or a board, I want you to realize you're a fiduciary when you're acting on a board. Talk to your attorneys first and ask them, am I putting myself in any legal liability that I need to know about and am unaware of? And that can go so far as the attorneys might tell you, do you sign any leases? Do you sign any papers as a board member? Do you vote on anything? Well, yes, we do. Well, that might be deemed as a contract. Who knows? I'm not an attorney. But you'll need to ask the attorneys, your own attorneys, and maybe the board's attorneys, and they should have one, by the way. What liability are we exposing ourselves to individually and as an organization? So typically we see that as a fiduciary liability, which means you have to do what a prudent person in the court of law, they say, would have done to put the interests of the organization first and the members of the organization over yourselves, above and beyond. So get to an attorney is my first recommendation, and ask them, what risks am I undertaking that I'm unaware of? Number two, on the insurance side, with this directors and officers liability, even with your best efforts, you still can't control all the risks. So there are potential lawsuits that you might want to be buying this insurance to protect, and you might want to be shopping the insurance from many different companies. So one is breach of fiduciary duty. Are we covered if there's breach of fiduciary duty? How about employment issues? We had a secretary, we had a janitor at the association, we fired them, they sued us. So for discrimination, we didn't hire. Sometimes you might be in a situation where it's not an employee that you had, it was a prospective employee that you chose not to hire, and they sue you for discrimination or whatever. So don't you think you might better have coverage so that you're not on the hook paying all the legal bills, defending yourself that you did not do anything wrong? Lo and behold, 2 or 3 years later, it goes through the courts, and it was proven you did not do anything wrong. But it didn't get to the courts for 2 or 3 or 4 years. Who's paying all those legal bills for those 2 or 3 or 4 years until it gets to the judge to say, yeah, it's a ridiculous lawsuit? Well, you are. So when you look for directors and officers liability coverage, you're looking for, does it have these coverages for breach of fiduciary liability? But you're also looking to see, does it pick up defense costs of each individual? And in fact, is each individual an insured under the contract, or is only the organization insured? So if the organization's sued and the judgment goes against them, the organization is not remunerated, but the payment is made based on any liability to the organization. But what if it doesn't pay based on the liability of any one individual in that organization acting on behalf of the organization? Ouch! So you better make sure you're covered. Do your homework there. Now, you want to make sure that the insured, like I say, is picking up all the members and all the officers. So I'm talking here about members and officers. Why do I want that? Well, what if one member in the organization does something and they're not an officer, and they put the organization at risk for being liable for something because they were a member of the organization? Boy, oh boy, what a mess, huh? So you want to find out who's an insured. Are the members insured? Any action of the member as a result of an organizational activity? Are the officers insured? Then you get to the next point and you say, what about somebody stealing money? What about members stealing money? Are we covered? What about officers stealing money or embezzling or not only money, theft of equipment? So are these things insured? How about liability? When you're a member of an organization and you conduct a picnic or fundraisers, if anyone gets hurt at those activities, are you insured? And another one is, what if you plan a big event, put all that expense into the big event, have all the commitments from all the vendors, let's say, and all the members, or not members, but participants who might pay an entrance fee to the event, and then it gets rained out, or power goes out in the facility where you were holding the event? Do you have no-show insurance? Do you have show cancellation insurance? There's a lot to think about here. Now you see why I tell you, business owners and individuals alike, you need to surround yourselves with competent financial, legal, and tax professionals. Don't try to do this yourselves. Like the old TV shows, don't try this at home, kids, because it's too complicated. And I'm sharing that with you here. Don't try to do this on your own. It's tough. There are a lot of things that you'll never think of. And in fact, many professionals don't even think of. So you have to get highly skilled ones. How about this? What if a lawsuit is between an insured to another insured? Wow. There are a lot of policies don't cover that, but you wouldn't know to ask. So when you shop one company and you shop another company, and they both say they're giving you the same coverages, and you look at the policy quotes, and they're both saying $1 million or $5 million and this and that and the other, you don't know to look in that policy coverage booklet. Insured versus insured is excluded on one, claims on that, and they're covered on another one. Obviously, one policy is going to be more expensive if it's including more risks of loss than the other one is. Have your attorneys review your contracts when you're shopping for coverage, folks. Do not try to do this on your own. Now, employment discrimination. Again, I just touched on that, but what about breach of contract? You know, the attorneys will tell you there are verbal contracts, there are written contracts. What if you tell somebody you'll do something and don't? What if your organization says they'll do something and don't? What if they sign agreements and then have a breach of contract for whatever reason? Are a breach of contract covered? These are all issues that when you're a member of an organization, you're now taking on that you weren't before you volunteered, or for pay. So either way, I'm asking you to be very careful I'm asking you to research. I'm asking you to ask the right questions. And I'm asking you to get and surround yourself with the right professionals to help guide you. Okay, folks, that's it for another edition of All Things Financial. We're out of time. I could go on, as you know, but we're out of time, so we have to stop. I'll be back again next week.
You've been listening to All Things Financial with your friend with the answers to all financial matters, Jack Driscoll of Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Sage Point Financial Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and registered investment advisor and member FINRA and SIPC. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services is not affiliated with Sage Point Financial, Inc. or registered as a broker, dealer, or investment advisor. You can reach Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Incorporated at 412-833-1500, and they are located at 2738 South Park Road, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, 15102.